You add something to your cart. At checkout, a little button appears. Pay in 4 interest-free installments of $25. It feels harmless, almost like a discount. But right now, nearly half of the people who use that button end up paying late, and a growing number of them are using it just to afford groceries. This isn't a checkout convenience anymore. It's quietly becoming one of the most common ways Americans go into debt without ever feeling like they borrowed anything. Let's start with how fast this has grown. By late 2026, an estimated 96 million Americans will have used a buy now, pay later service. That's roughly 1 in every 3 adults in the country. And it's not just for big purchases anymore. A 2026 survey found that 25% of buy now, pay later users have used it to buy groceries, nearly double the rate from just 2 years earlier. When people start financing food, they'll eat before the loan is even paid off. That's not a shopping trend. That's a sign of real financial strain spreading into the most basic parts of life. Now here's the number that should genuinely concern you. The share of users who report paying late has climbed every single year. 34% in 2024, 41% in 2025, and 47% in 2026. That's a 13-point jump in just 2 years. Nearly half the people using these apps are missing payments. And it doesn't stop at one loan. 63% of users have held multiple buy now, pay later loans at the same time, and 25% have juggled 3 or more at once. That's the real danger hiding in this system. It's not one $30 payment. It's 5 or 6 overlapping payment plans, from 5 or 6 different apps, each with its own due date, quietly stacking up against the same paycheck. Here's what makes this different from a credit card, and why it's more dangerous than it looks. A credit card gives you one bill, one due date, one number to track. Buy now, pay later loans are scattered across separate apps, separate schedules, and separate companies, which makes it incredibly easy to lose track of how much you actually owe in total. You don't feel like you're in debt, because no single payment feels like debt. $25 here, $30 there. It's death by 1,000 small payments, and the 1,000 small payments are exactly what makes it invisible. There's also a myth doing a lot of damage here. 62% of users incorrectly believe that using buy now, pay later helps build their credit score. Most of these services don't report on-time payments to the credit bureaus at all, which means paying diligently for years might be doing nothing for your credit. But missing a payment can absolutely hurt you, since more providers are now beginning to report negative payment history, even if they don't report the positive kind. You take on real risk for a benefit that, for most users, simply doesn't exist. And here's the part that reveals what's actually happening underneath all this. 54% of users say they wouldn't be able to make ends meet without buy now, pay later. And that number rises to 62% among parents with kids under 18. This isn't primarily a story about impulsive shopping. For a large share of users, it's a symptom of household budgets that are already stretched too thin, using installment loans to quietly patch the gap. So how do you actually protect yourself from this, whether you already use these apps or you're tempted to start? First, treat every buy now, pay later loan exactly like a credit card debt, because that's what it functionally is. Before clicking Pay in 4, ask yourself the same question you'd ask before swiping a credit card. Could I pay this in full today if I had to? If the honest answer is no, the installment plan isn't making the purchase more affordable. It's just hiding the fact that you can't afford it yet. Second, never use more than one buy now, pay later provider at a time. The danger isn't really any single payment plan. It's the stacking. If you're already tracking one, don't open a second app with its own separate due dates. Consolidating everything onto one system, even a single credit card, is far easier to monitor than 5 scattered installment loans. Third, never use these loans for anything that gets consumed before the debt is paid off. Groceries, restaurant meals, anything perishable, should never be financed this way. If the item is gone before the last payment is due, you're paying interest and fees on something that no longer exists. purely to cover a cash flow gap that a small emergency fund would solve instead. A few ground rules to keep this from becoming another convenient trap. Rule 1. If a purchase requires 4 installments to feel affordable, it's not affordable right now. Wait, save, or skip it. Rule 2. Set a hard personal limit of 0 simultaneous buy now, pay later plans beyond 1, and write down every due date the moment you commit to a payment, since these apps rely on you forgetting. Rule 3. Don't assume on-time payments are quietly building your credit. Check whether your specific provider reports to the credit bureaus, and if it doesn't, treat the credit-building reasoning as false from the start. Consider someone earning a modest income who starts using buy now, pay later for a single clothing purchase, splitting $60 into 4 $15 payments. It feels manageable. A few weeks later, a similar option appears at checkout for groceries, then again for a phone repair, then again for back-to-school supplies. Within 2 months, they're tracking 4 separate payment plans across 4 separate apps, each pulling from the same checking account on different days. No single payment ever felt large enough to cause alarm, but the combined total quietly grew to nearly $400 a month in obligations that didn't exist 2 months earlier, on top of rent, groceries, and every other bill already due that same month. When one paycheck arrives a few days late, 2 of the 4 payments miss their due dates simultaneously, triggering late fees on both, and the interest-free purchases suddenly aren't free at all. Nothing about this required financial recklessness. It required nothing more than 4 separate yes clicks, spread out just far enough apart to never feel connected. Now, the honest part, because not everything about buy now, pay later is a trap. Used deliberately, for a single planned purchase you could otherwise afford in full, with a clear repayment date you'll actually meet, it can be a genuinely interest-free way to manage cash flow for something like a necessary large purchase. The Federal Reserve's own research has found that, at its current scale, buy now, pay later doesn't yet appear to pose a major risk to the broader financial system. This isn't a story about an evil product. The real risk isn't the tool, it's the way it's being used by a large share of people who are already financially stretched, where a scattered web of small debts becomes the only way to bridge a gap that shouldn't exist in the first place. If you're using these loans because you genuinely cannot otherwise afford groceries or rent this month, the deeper problem isn't the installment plan, it's the budget it's covering for, and that's worth addressing directly rather than papering over with another app. Buy now, pay later isn't free money, and it was never designed to feel like debt, which is exactly what makes it dangerous. The next time that Pay in 4 button appears at checkout, ask yourself the only question that actually matters. If this app didn't exist, could you afford this right now? If the answer is no, the installments aren't solving that problem. They're just quietly postponing it, one $25 payment at a time.